everyone, and welcome to episode 20 of Cinema Rogues. I'm your host, Guy, and as always, I am joined by Andrew, who you may have just heard.
That's me.
Yeah. Today we're going to be talking about the George Clooney directed and starring movie, The Midnight Sky.
We are.
I'm excited. I didn't know anything about the movie going in, but before we get into talking about the movie, let's do a little bit of housekeeping. If you want to hear more Andrew, go check out Board Game Barbarians. He's got another episode due here in a couple of weeks.
Yep, I got to get on that.
Actually, it should be coming out about the same time this episode is coming out, I believe.
No, I release on the 15th, so unless you're going to hold this episode for
I'm going to hold it for 12 more days, so the 12th.
Well, that's not the 15th, is it? That's right before it.
All right, so look for it coming out in 3 days.
What?
All you day one listeners. If you want to check out me, check out Sizetail Studios. I haven't been uploading anything to YouTube in a while, but you can go check my backlog. Just taking a break and enjoying playing video games rather than, recording video games. I over the past year have realized that those are two different things.
Yeah.
So.
Yep.
Yeah. And then as always, please go check out Retro Warriors. You can check them out at retrowarriors.net. You can find them on any podcast thing.
iTunes mostly, and other stuff except Google apparently.
Except Google, because Google hates everything, I guess.
Every podcast.
But yeah, go ahead, search for them on iTunes. And then search for us too, I guess. I mean, you're already here, so I assume you searched for us.
You could search for us again on a different platform.
Let's talk about what we've been doing. I watched Ava. I don't know if you've seen that one.
No.
It's got the lady Jessica Chastain.
Mm-hmm.
She plays a spy. It's basically Lady John Wick.
I know what you're talking about. I just haven't watched it.
It's an all right movie. If you're looking for a movie to just kind of sit back and enjoy, like a popcorn movie of a lady like just killing people, it's pretty great.
Action-packed thriller.
Right. A little bit of subterfuge and betrayal, and
There you go. You got a movie.
I watched Dread with you.
I was there.
You were.
We didn't watch it for this show though.
No, we watched
it
with. Yeah, I think we were just hanging out, and then. Yeah. We had plans that got canceled that we were supposed to hang out.
Yep.
And you and I decided that, hey, we're just going to hang out on the internet anyway. And then Justin's like, no, I'm watching a movie.
Well, I contacted Justin. I was like, hey, you still want to hang out even though plans got canceled? And he was like, I guess so. And so he roped us into his movie.
Yeah. And he roped your wife into it too, man. It was a great little party. There. It was awesome.
Yeah. Made popcorn.
And then I watched episodes 3 and 4 of WandaVision. Episode 3 was par for the course, I would say, for the first two. And then the fourth one went off the rails, and it was amazing.
It was good.
Yeah. If you guys have not seen WandaVision, check it out. It's well worth it. It's a good, so far it seems to be a good extension of the MCU. So, what about you, Andrew? What have you been up to?
Well, I watched WandaVision as well. I also have purchased several movies that I haven't watched yet. I purchased the Aubrey Plaza Black Bear movie, where she goes to a cabin with a couple and ruins their lives or something. I don't really know what it's I know it's like a mystery thriller kind of a movie. I haven't watched it yet.
Is Black Bear a person?
I don't know. There's not there's not an animal in the movie that I'm aware of.
Oh, okay.
So I think that's just the name of the place that they're at, maybe? I don't know. I haven't watched it, so I have no idea. So please don't ask me questions because I know nothing. I just like Aubrey Plaza, so I was like, I'll check it out.
The name of the movie is Black Bear. Okay.
Yeah. Did I not say that?
You said that Aubrey Plaza Black Bear movie, and I thought Aubrey Plaza / Black Bear.
Oh, no.
Because there's an artist named Black Bear who did a song called Do Re Mi.
The Aubrey Plaza movie Black Bear.
Gotcha.
Is what I meant to say, I guess. And then I bought 300 and haven't watched it yet. but it was on sale, so I bought it. And watched Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Bought that and watched that. Good. Holds up. Good movie.
Yeah, I haven't watched it in a long time.
I had neither.
It's one of those movies I want to show my kids, but I don't want to scar them either. So I have to judge how old how old are they going to be, but when they can handle like in cartoon shoes melting into goo.
I'd say like 8 or 10, 8 to 10.
Right, that's what they're going to be this year. 8 and 10.
I feel like that's a good time. Like, according to I feel like that's I don't know. I'm not a parent, so don't take my word for it. That's the years that my old psychology professor was like, tell your kids about sex when they're like 8 to 10, so it doesn't get told to them on the playground by some shitty kid. Like,
right, and our kids are 7 and 9. Me and my ex-wife, and we've already started to have conversations about them of growing up and your body changing and stuff like that.
Because it's better to hear that than some asshole on the that watched a HBO or Cinemax movie or whatever,
right?
Or porn and was like, "This is what's sex." Anyway, that's not what the show's about.
But I'm also like a terrible judge of that thing, apparently, because I was telling you the other day, I sat down with the kids because I got it in my head that, hey, they should watch Happy Gilmore.
Yeah, and I don't know if that's I guess
Right, exactly. And my 8-year-old is like, no, I don't want to watch this movie. It sounds dumb. I'm like, okay,
that's fine. Just
and then
don't make.
Or I guess he's 7. And then my 9-year-old was watching it, and she was into it. She's into hockey and stuff.
Yeah.
And she was into it, and then just probably about 10 minutes into it, I was like, there's a lot of swearing. I forgot. This is a bad movie. We're gonna change the channel. I'm sorry.
Other than that, I purchased Community on Blu-ray because it was $50 on Amazon, and I was like, I want special features. I've watched Community on Hulu, on Netflix. I've watched it through streaming multiple times a year for the past like 4 or 5 years or more. I don't really remember. I've watched it so many times I don't even remember how long I've been watching it. But so I got it on Blu-ray. And there are commentary tracks on every single episode.
Nice.
I've just been listening to the commentary on every episode and watching the bloopers and everything. And I'm just the first season in, and well worth the $50 for that. If anybody's a Community fan, I would highly recommend it. And it's a good set. The Amazon reviews were very I've already talked about this on Talking Wizards, but I guess it's up behind the Patreon wall, but the reviews on Amazon were all like, oh, it's like paper sleeves for your discs that you put your discs in, and they're like, yeah, they're in the paper sleeves, and once you take them out, you ruin them immediately, and they're all scratched up. And I was like, what are you doing to your discs that they're ruined immediately once you take them out of a paper sleeve? And they're not. So the one I got, they're in like the little disc tray on each that you pop them out. So well worth it if you're a Community fan. Also, I've never seen the pilot in such clear HD before, because it's always like fuzzy and grainy on both Netflix and Hulu. It's like they got a shitty VHS copy of it.
Nice. I think the farthest I've ever gotten into Community is somewhere in season 2.
Ooh. Rough.
I do remember Chevy Chase being in like a full body cast. That season 2.
I think that's season 3. Maybe season 2.
There you go.
I don't remember. Most of the time when I watch the show, I'm like, this was season 1? I thought this was season 3. Like, it happens to me all the time. I'll watch an episode and I'm like, I don't remember this in this season. But yeah, that's what I've been munching on.
I'm a fan of commentary. I think we've talked about it before, where like The Simpsons, I've got the first 8 seasons of The Simpsons on DVD, and I'll pop in a random disc, a random episode, and just watch the commentary.
Nice.
It's so good. Because you get, especially when you have the actors in there, and not just necessarily directors and writers. Although the directors and writers do add to it. Right. But when you get the actors in there and they're just telling like little stories about things that happened on set and stuff, I find that fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of that is what's happening in the community, and Dan Harmon's on every single one, at least for the. I assume he's not going to be in the fourth season commentary. But it's like Dan Harmon, one of the Russo brothers, because they directed a bunch of the episodes.
Right.
And a bunch of the actors, like main cast, are there. But
Cool.
it's a good time. I think the next show I've got all of Venture Brothers on Blu-ray and DVD on the older seasons.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I'm gonna do commentary on those next.
Nice. All right. Well, let's get into some news here. I guess starting off, Patrick Stewart confirmed that he has had talks with Kevin Feige about coming back as Professor X, but has definitively confirmed that he's not going to do it. The quote from him saying, "I met with Kevin Feige a couple months ago and we had long conversations. And there have been moves and suggestions which include Charles Xavier. Well, I don't know why I can't say his name. Here's the problem. If we had not made Logan, then yes, I would probably be ready to get into that wheelchair one more time and be Charles Xavier. But Logan changed all that. So it sounds like he feels like his arc as Charles Xavier is wrapped up and there is no good way to get back into the character."
I mean, I remember him saying that after Logan came out, he was like, "Yeah, this is my last time doing it. Even if they asked me again, I wouldn't do it." And to be fair, like, he's, as much as I hate to say it, he's getting old. And I don't know how long he could do the role.
Well, I mean, all he's got to do is sit in a chair and go like, you know?
Yeah, that's it. That's all he has to do. He has to hum and sit in a chair.
I mean, I guess playing Picard is a more physical role, but he did look old in the first season of Picard. I mean, he is old, but
right.
You know,
he's getting up there.
Yeah, he's showing his age at 90 or whatever.
Yeah, I don't think he's that old, man. Jesus.
Jurassic World Dominion has been confirmed by its director to be basically, he's considering it a chapter 6 in the Jurassic World saga, going all the way back to Jurassic Park 1. So I assume that means there's going to be some sort of fan service, and he's intending to try and tie the two series together so that it makes sense as one long continuity.
Bringing previous actors in, I assume?
Yeah, I mean, I know like Sam Neill's in it. I believe.
Did they get Goldblum?
Yeah. He was in the last one, the second one.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, because he was in like the court scene.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think they got a few people coming back. So that'll be interesting. And then also, Camp Cretaceous just came out. And if I remember right, it is also supposed to lead directly into Jurassic World Dominion. So check that on Netflix. I watched pieces of it because my girlfriend's been watching it. She's like super into dinosaurs.
Yeah.
And what I saw was pretty good. So
I haven't watched it.
Yeah. I would suggest it. A Quiet Place Part 2 has been delayed to September of 2021. Actually, there are a few delays here. The Bob Burger movie was removed from Disney's release schedule altogether. They haven't set a new date. They haven't really given a reason why either. It just disappeared.
Well, the Bob's Burgers art director recently died in a skydiving accident.
Oh, yeah, I did see that.
So I'm pretty sure that's probably related to it.
Maybe.
Okay. Maybe.
I mean, they've been doing the art for like 10 years now. You'd think they'd get it already.
I know, right? Jesus.
That sucks about that guy.
Yeah.
I'm sure that came as a shock to everybody involved for sure. The Kingsman, which is the Kingsman prequel, has been delayed to August of 2021.
Lame.
And then Sony has announced a bunch of delays. Cinderella, Uncharted, Peter Rabbit 2, Ghostbusters Afterlife, and Morbius are all getting pushed back.
Lame, I guess.
Lame. Why don't you finish out the news here?
All right. Reports suggest Christopher Nolan is done with Warner Brothers as a distributor due to the HBO Max changes. Yeah, I guess. I mean, here you put you good. Do you feel like it's good?
Yeah, I mean, kinda. I don't know. I not necessarily good riddance, I suppose. Christopher Nolan is a talented director. We did an entire episode about him, and I have respect for the products that he puts out. Right. However, his more recent stances about how integral theater, specifically as a medium and viewing place, is to his art, are problematic in the age of a pandemic.
Yeah, I mean, like, I understand where he's coming from, where he wants it to be in a theater, but I feel like he's not being realistic with his expectations.
Right. And so then for HBO Max to go and, change their distribution, and reportedly making every effort to make it right by the directors,
Yeah.
and the people that are affected financially by it.
Like, they've offered bonuses and things like that.
Right. So it looks like they're making their best effort, and for him to just be like, "Nah, I'm done with you guys. Fine, go somewhere else. Somebody else will pay you to make the movies you want to, just whatever. Fuck off."
Will they? I don't know. We'll find out in the future. Warner Brothers executive Tom Asham, do you know what he's done before? Like, I've never heard of him, so I'm not really sure if he's done anything before this, but he has been promoted to oversee the entire Harry Potter franchise and other properties of the Wizarding World, including a live-action Harry Potter series in the works at HBO Max. And I also read up on this, but that was like, literally they announced that they're thinking about doing it. So, like, nothing, as far as I understand, has been written. Nothing has been pre-productioned at all. So if there is a Harry Potter show coming out, it's years away.
Right. Yeah, that's what I read too. So I assume he is going to have reign over really anything Harry Potter, and that might include their licensing of games too.
I know they have some stuff that's out already, so I don't know how much he could really affect that. Like, I know there's that open world Harry Potter game that was delayed until next year, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if he could touch that, but yeah, I mean, this sounds like he would also have control over the third Fantastic Beasts movie if they end up deciding to do that, since they just let Johnny Depp go for all the stuff that he's wrapped up in.
Dude, I was telling my girlfriend they should just have like CG Johnny Depp like transforming back into Colin Farrell. Right.
Yeah. Like, he's like, I just kidding. This was my actual look the whole time.
I'm sorry, I got annoying for a while.
Hulu debuts Palm Springs commentary cut with Andy Samberg and Kristen, is it Milioti? Milioti?
Yeah.
I'm excited for that because I loved that movie. It was amazing.
Yeah, I will be interested to watch that. You can do Hulu watch parties, right?
Maybe. I think you
I thought
can.
that was a thing.
You can do, well, because the Netflix party turned into multiple services. So I think you can do it. Lovecraft Country creator Misha Green to write and direct the Tomb Raider sequel. We'll see how that goes. I forgot there was a Tomb Raider movie that came out like 5 years ago or whatever.
Yeah, I watched it.
Was it 2018? I remember not seeing anything about it.
Yeah, it was 2018. I watched it probably about a year and a half ago at this point. It was in my old house, so almost 2 years ago at this point.
Yeah.
It was enjoyable. I liked the way they did it. It followed like the Rise of the Tomb Raider storyline more so than like, the original games.
Right. I mean, it looked like it was more towards the newer games than it was the older ones.
Right. And then at the end of the movie, she put her hair up in like her like ponytail and like grabbed a couple of guns and was like ready to go, like Laura Crofted up. So
cool. Well, I loved Lovecraft Country, so hopefully that goes well. And then last, sadly, Cloris Leachman dead at the age of 94. I mean, like, sad, but also not unexpected.
Right. Cloris Leachman is such a prolific actress. That yeah, even though she's 94, it's still kind of it's a loss, right?
Yeah.
I know that I first gained awareness of her as Grandma Clampett or Granny Clampett in the Beverly Hillbillies movie.
I can't even think of. I know the last thing that I saw her in was American Gods. She played a character in that.
Oh, she was in that. I haven't seen that yet.
Yeah, she was in the first season of it. Yeah.
Awesome. Let's check that out.
Well, cool. I guess you want to get into the topic. I'll read the synopsis off here.
Go for it.
The Midnight Sky. After a mysterious event wipes out all livable areas on Earth, a lone scientist must warn the only spaceship coming home from an expedition.
Released on December 11th, 2020 on Netflix.
Oh, man, so that is new. I didn't know it was that new.
Yeah. I think when we were talking about last time, I said it came out last year and then said 2019.
Oh.
But I meant 2020 because it would just turn to the
year. Yeah.
I was just wrong. But it's based on the Lily Brooks Dalton book named Good Morning Midnight. And then George Clooney was announced to star and direct in June of 2019. Filming began in October 2019 and wrapped up in February of 2020, right before the plague hit the world.
Yeah.
And it's funny.
The event.
The event, right? Yeah, I was watching some, behind the scenes like follow up stuff. There was a behind the scenes trailer, and then there's like an hour long sort of interview with a bunch of the cast members that I watched. And they were and George Clooney was talking about how, they finished wrapping it up, and then they started to do post production, and then the world stopped. And he was like, "This is really weird to be doing post on this movie,
yeah,
while there's a plague going on."
I can imagine. Yeah.
They filmed some of it on location in Iceland. That was apparently in super dangerous conditions. Like it was the stuff you saw on screen was real, to the extent of like the whiteout and how much they couldn't see, in front of them. George Clooney and Kaylin were tied together with a safety line, just so that they didn't lose each other, even though they were standing next to each other in scenes. And they had, numerous people telling them where they could and couldn't go, because George Clooney was talking about how they were filming on like these precipices or whatever, and a lot of them were just hard-packed snow. So the actual like rock, bedrock of the precipice would run out like, feet before the snow accumulation looked like it ended. Right. So if you go too far out, you just drop down to your death.
Jeez. I don't know why whenever you said they had safety lines, I imagine like the safety lines, they're separate from each other. But I imagine originally whenever you said it, I thought they were tied together.
No, I think they were tied together.
Oh, because that would be terrible if like George Clooney fell off a cliff and then just drags the little girl down with him. Like,
I would assume they had a line tied to something solid too. But
yeah, I would hope so. Like, that'd be good, like, if she fell down, because I'm pretty sure her weight wouldn't necessarily, like, pull Clooney down, but the other way around definitely would.
As we mentioned, directed by George Clooney, screenplay by Mark L. Smith, starring George Clooney. There's a lot of George Clooney. I'm going to say George and Mr. Clooney a lot, it seems like.
Yeah.
But starring George Clooney, also starring Felicity Jones, as Dr. Iris Sullivan. George Clooney plays Augustine Lofthouse. Augustine is a famous scientist in this movie. He discovered a planet a moon on Jupiter.
Yeah.
That humanity sent a mission to see about colonizing, so that not all the humans are on Earth.
Right. That was kind of weird that he was like, "Oh, there's this undiscovered moon that we've never seen before," and I was like, "I don't believe that, but okay, I'll believe it for this movie."
Right there, and we'll get into that. There's a lot of I had problems with this movie.
Yeah, I did too.
From a scientific standpoint.
But I had problems with this movie from an entertainment standpoint and scientific.
Anyway, in supporting roles, you had the young Kaylin Springle as the lost girl. David Oyelowo,
yep,
as Commander Adewale. If you don't know David Oyelowo off the top of your head, he's the guy that played Martin Luther King in Selma.
Okay.
Kyle Chandler as Captain Mitchell, Damian Beecher as Sanchez, and Tiffany Boone as Maya. Those four, the last four, Commander Adewale, Mitchell, Sanchez, and Maya are the rest of the crew on the spaceship. And so I mean, the cast in this is very small. It's basically George Clooney, a little girl, and then the crew of the spaceship.
Yeah, the 5 people, 4.
Yeah,
people.
yeah, it's 5. Well, technically
5
6 if you count
5
the fetus.
That's true. I don't, but not a person yet.
Not a person
still.
yet.
Still in the tummy.
Still in the tummy. Critical response, Rotten Tomatoes gave it 51% critic score and 28% user score. I say gave it, whatever it has. And then Metacritic is pretty similar on the critic score, 58, and then 4.5 user score.
And that's out of 10, right?
That's out of 10, yeah.
Yeah.
So it seems like not a lot of people who aren't critics enjoyed it.
For a second, I thought that was out of 5, and I was like, "That's a huge difference, 28% versus 4.5 out of 5." But it's out of 10, so that makes more sense.
All right, well, spoiler free. What did you think of the movie?
Oh man, I kept thinking. So like I tried to make like a good like 2 hours of it. Like I was like, all right, I'm gonna sit down and I'm gonna watch this movie. I made popcorn. I had like a drink ready. Like I had like some red vines. I was like, I'm gonna try to do like the movie experience. And boy, was this movie long. It's only like an hour and 50 minutes or something like that. Like it's almost 2 hours, but it felt like 4 hours. And like I remember I got halfway through it and I was like, I messaged you and I was like, this movie is long. And I meant to say it just feels long.
Right.
Because you were like, it's not even 2 hours. And I'm like, yeah, but it feels like forever. Like, because nothing like happens, like stuff happens in the movie, but I mean, it's very slow. It's a very slow build, and it never like, it kind of ramps up, but once it ramps up, it quickly plateaus again.
Yeah. I agree with you in the way that you're describing it. I think I had more fun with it than you did. I was thoroughly entertained by it while it was happening. I didn't feel like the pacing was, slow or anything like that.
Yeah.
But I can see how like the action in it felt very episodic, I guess, within a movie.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that. It also like I didn't want to turn it off. Like it wasn't so bad that I was like, I'm gonna turn off this movie now. Like if I hadn't been doing it for this show, I wouldn't have still turned it off. I would have finished it. But yeah, it was really slow. I had some issues with like the way that this, because there's 3 different stories, technically, and they all kind of, story A resolves kind of like soonish. I guess it could be, I don't know. The different stories are kind of like the way that they resolve is kind of confusing, but we'll have to get into that in the spoiler section.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess it's fair to say spoiler free. This is like me just like declaring no spoiler free and then like launching into a spoiler. But I said spoiler free, so it doesn't count, right?
Yeah, spoiler free. Everyone dies. Spoiler free.
End of story. But like there's the people, or the people on the planet, George Clooney and the Lost Girl, whose name you don't know for a while.
You don't even know that she can talk for a while.
Right. And then you've got the crew on the spaceship, and then you also have a little bit of a flashback story that's going on. And
yeah, that was also kind of like, that only happened like 2 or 3 times, and it was kind of, it was weird the way they did it.
It felt like the flashbacks were supposed to tie everything together, but it also felt like that, knowing that's where the narrative structure was going, sort of made the ending easier to see coming.
Right. That was the other thing I was going to say is the flashbacks felt forced in
Mm-hmm.
some instances. And I guess everything that the movie was like, twist. Like everything that the movie was trying to throw at you as like a revelation, I was like, yeah, no, that's not like. I instantly, like the moment we saw like a character, I was like, yep, I know who that is.
But right, like yeah, I agree with you. I think it telegraphed its story beats, a lot, and I don't think it intended to. I was gonna say it telegraphed them really well, but I think that it wasn't trying to. So
Yeah, I don't think it was either.
All right. So before we get into spoilers, last little bit, would you suggest watching it?
I wouldn't. I think this is the first movie that I wouldn't really like. I didn't hate it, but I wouldn't. It's 2 hours. It's almost 2 hours, and I feel like at the end of it, you're gonna be like, well, I could have spent that time watching a different movie, or like, there's so much better content out there that unless you've watched everything on Netflix and that's the only service you have, and you're like, well, this movie's new. It's either that, or if you like George Clooney just a lot, then watch it. But for any other person that's just looking for something to watch, there are better things on Netflix.
Yeah, see, I like George Clooney and Felicity Jones, so maybe that's part of why I was into it. I have enjoyed George Clooney since ER, right?
I think I only like him in the Ocean's movies.
Yeah, I mean George Clooney doesn't really change.
Yeah.
He doesn't always play the same character, but his personality really comes through in his characters a lot.
I'll say this. I think he did a good job in this movie. I think all the actors did great jobs. I think they were all very believable. That is a positive thing that I have for this movie. Besides, it was also really pretty. Like, it was a really pretty movie.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So it was pretty. Acting was good. Just slow.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think it's slow. I wouldn't pay money to see it. Like, if it's out in the theaters or whatever, don't go see it. But if you got Netflix, it's worth a couple hours to me.
Well.
All right. Well, then let's get into spoilers.
Spoiler zone.
All right. So now, spoilers. Yeah, Andrew, why don't you tell me your first thing here?
I mean, it's not a spoiler, but I did think that the younger version of Clooney did a really good job of matching his speech pattern.
Yeah, It took me a while to figure it out, but that's the guy that plays Spock in Star Trek Discovery.
Yeah.
And even going back and rewatching it to the movie today to prep for this, I thought that maybe they had just dubbed Clooney's voice over him, because he does an amazing job supporting your point.
I mean, I did think about that. I was like, because the first time he talks, I'm like, that sounds exactly like George Clooney, only younger, like not raspy or anything.
Right.
And I was like, did they like do some weird stuff with that? And then I was just like, no, he probably just like studied the way that he talks and did a somewhat impersonation of him, or impression, and did a good job. Like, I feel like that's cheaper than George Clooney going in and dubbing over all of this stuff.
Well, I mean, he directed it and did a lot of, was in charge of the post-production, so it's not out of the realm that he could just overdub his own lines.
Yeah, I guess so. But it didn't sound exactly like him. It just sounded a lot like him.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, no, I thought he did a good job. I think he did a good job. I think he did a better job of establishing who Augustine was as a character and his motivations than George Clooney did, to be honest.
I mean, I feel like they kind of matched each other. Like, I didn't really think about the establishment of the character. I mean, young Augustine just seems like an asshole, like, who's obsessed with work. And they kept like saying that he was dying, but didn't really tell you from what. I mean, he has dialysis, but so I don't know.
Yeah, like Tuvok tells him at the beginning, if you stop your dialysis, you'll be dead in like a week.
Yeah.
But okay, actually, this leads into one of mine here.
Okay.
I have a problem with that fucking dialysis machine.
How tiny it is?
Well, I mean that too, but I don't know why I'm attributing this, but it's in like 50 years, right? It's like 2054 or whatever.
I think it was like 2043, but yeah, who cares?
So,
like same time.
Right. So maybe they have miniaturized the dialysis machines to a point and have like the dialysis membrane like, ironed out. No, my problem with it is the fact that he plugs like this like fucking medical tubing into a port on his arm, right? And then you see it like drain like a gallon of blood because it's like a 1/4-inch tubing. Like pull it out of his arm through the machine and then back into his other arm that's already hooked up. So I assume it's just shoving air into his veins.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's how it works, right? That's
well,
what
maybe there's.
To do?
I mean, if you're thinking about if, I like that you have a problem with that, but not the tiny dialysis machine. Like, because I would say, like, in that same vein, in the future, there could be a section of the tubing that's going into his right arm that releases air, but not liquid.
Yeah, I thought about that. I think I put that in there, but like, it's something that's always bugged me. Especially when they're like showing like IVs on TV or whatever, and you just see like the liquid like running like down the tube, pushing this like giant pocket of air into somebody's vein.
Yeah,
that's a lot of people that kill on TV. That's all I'm saying.
I have a problem with movies that just call. I have a problem with them not explaining, or at least trying to explain, whatever cataclysmic event has destroyed the planet. It was my problem in The Road, where they were like, something happened and now everybody's dead except for these cannibal people and me. Like, and in this movie, like, they sort of explain it with the air. Like, it seems like there's a radiated air, or a radiation is pouring from all over the world into the northern regions where he's at. And they don't really like say what it is. And I can't think of anything that would cause radiation to spread at that level, even if there was like even if there was a meltdown. I guess it could be like all of the nuclear power plants.
At the very beginning of the movie, when George Clooney, Augustine goes back into the station and starts looking at that monitor, it shows like multiple points of origin for whatever is spreading.
Right.
Like throughout
all
the
over
world,
the planet. Yeah.
All over the planet. Yeah. And I went back and paused that while I was looking things up today. And there's a section of the screen that says global spread cases by day. I don't know what that means. I mean, that sounds more like an epidemic of some sort. But then also it shows, ionizing radiation cloud. Ionizing radiation.
It shows like the radiation symbol on like the portion that's moving north.
Right. So I don't know. I don't know what it's purposely left ambiguous. But yeah, and especially like when they come back, and they see the planet for the first time, like it's just like gross and dust and swirly and shit. Like that made me think it was some sort of like nuclear thing. Like
it looked like we didn't have an atmosphere, like because it looked like there was like gas escaping the planet. And I'm like, well, that looks like we have no atmosphere, which means that George Clooney's character is immediately dead. Like there's nothing.
Well, and you did see like when in that scene when the birds started dying, and he's like, "Oh no, the radiation's here. It's not supposed to be here yet."
Yeah.
And he had to go further north, like that. Maybe that's part of it. And I think overall. You kind of jump into the end here, but overall this movie ends on a really shitty note because there's
hope for incest in the Jupiter planet.
Right, like that's the thing. George Clooney's dead because he's lost his dialysis machine. The two people that flew back to Earth are probably dead because I think it's assumed that they're in underground shelters, but those underground shelters are temporary and they're going to die eventually.
Yeah, how are those dudes going to get down to them without dying? I guess they've got spacesuits, so they can last a little while.
Yeah, like let's hope they know exactly which shelter their family's in, I guess, even though they don't have any communications.
Yeah,
So,
the ending of this movie didn't really make a lot of sense for any of it.
right.
For at least for the two guys that went down there, because they're like, well, I got to go for my family. And then the other guy's like, I just want to die, I guess. Like, I'll go down there and die now. But yeah, like the event they didn't really explain it enough for me to want to, or for me to understand kind of what's happening. And even if they had just explained it a little bit, or just been like, oh yeah, just tell me something like, oh yeah, all the nuclear power plants are gone, or there was nuclear explosions. Tell me something so that way I have something that I can believe in. But just saying like, oh, it was an event and now the air's bad or whatever, and there's radiation because the dude in that plane had obvious signs of like radiation, or at least what we show radiation as on television.
Yeah, well, like, and the only other clue that they gave was when he first started transmitting and they were picking it up. He was saying something along the lines of, "We're not sure how it started. It may have been an accident," and then like the transmission cut out.
Oh yeah, I don't understand the people that went home like after learning everything. The people that were on this research station, they're like, we're going home. Like,
the ones that were leaving, like in the beginning of the movie.
Yeah, they're basically leaving to go die. Like,
yeah, well, I think they were being.
Oh, are they going underground?
Yeah, they were being evacuated to an underground shelter.
Okay, that makes more sense.
Which is where they planted the seed. Which now that we're talking about spoilers, like we can get into this. They planted the seed of, potentially a child being lost.
Right.
And that's, again, if we're in spoilers here, I guess let's talk about it. That the little lost girl that we've been talking about is a figment of Augustine's imagination.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's actually his daughter Iris, from the flashbacks. And I mean, I thought that was interesting to a certain extent, but I don't know.
That was the only thing that I didn't guess. Like, I didn't guess that it was him going crazy, basically, or him talking to himself, because it's basically what he was doing.
You know what? I sort of guessed it. In that scene where like she's outside of the car and then she gets into it, right? And he's watching from like a long way away.
Oh, in the flashback?
Yeah. Like at that point I was like, okay, they're not showing this kid, and I mean it's clearly his daughter.
Yeah.
And anyway, that's where I put those pieces together. But I don't know. There were a lot of things that happened that I don't understand how they happened if she is a figment of his imagination, right?
Right, like the cereal. Well, I guess he could have left the cereal out, and at that point, we're just fight clubbing it. Like,
right,
he's done this and then just not remembered that he did it.
Well, like that scene where the shelter like falls into the ice, for example, like he throws her out the window and then she runs away from the crumbling ice with his gun.
Oh yeah.
Like and rescue some of that.
Well, it was just he threw it really far.
I guess so. There, and there were some clues in that scene, because in that very scene, like he's dunked in water, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he comes out and he's like in full gear and he's like shivering cold, and she's just kind of sitting there like, I mean, I'm cold, but I'm not like that cold.
Yeah, can we talk about that scene for a minute?
Sure.
Because I had a problem with that scene, because he would have died. Like,
yeah,
he was underwater in sub-zero freezing temperatures for more than 30 seconds. He definitely has hypothermia. He's not going to be able to just get out of the ice and put his jacket on with cold, wet clothing and rub himself a little bit and then get up and walk away from it. Like,
and then sleep in a snow hole.
yeah, like dude's dead. Like that I when that happened, I was like, okay, this movie is no longer. I lost my what is it?
Suspension of disbelief.
Yeah, that's when I lost my. I was like, like at the beginning of the movie when he's like, I found a new moon. I'm like, all right, whatever. And he's like, also there's an event. And I'm like, I hate it, but okay. And then like when he goes in the water and like is underwater for an extended period of time, is when I was like, nah, I'm done. Like, nope, this is not a thing anymore.
Yeah. And I guess the little girl did give him motivation to eventually get to the station to a certain extent, but
right.
It seemed like a twist that was in there just to be a twist, you know.
What a twist. Yeah.
What a twist.
I mean, like the twist that it's his daughter in the space station. That immediately when she shows up, I'm like, it's his daughter.
Yeah.
From the flashbacks.
Yeah. Like Felicity Jones's character was clearly his daughter, and that's another thing I didn't understand, or I don't want to say I didn't understand it so much as I think it would have made more sense if when they were contacting each other, like at the end and they're saying goodbye and shit, if he was like, oh yeah, by the way, I'm your dad.
Yeah, I don't think he said it, did he?
No, he didn't. She's like, I've respected you. You're like the reason that I went into space, blah, blah, blah. Like at that point, why didn't he just say,
I'm your dad, and then have the transmission cut out?
Yeah.
And she never hears it, but he got to say
it. Yeah, he just like gives his little like sad head.
Yeah. I mean, that was what I was talking about with so you have story A, which is, I guess, the event and everything. And really story A, I guess, is him seeing that there's only one ship left and he's got to contact them. And so story A resolves before everything else whenever he contacts them. And then you've got story B, which is the ship, and then you have story C, which is, I don't remember. Or it's the relationship with his daughter.
Yeah.
Technically.
And I think that he knew that the ether was out there, right? Like, I mean, there's no way. It's his daughter's on the ship. It's a ship that was going to a mission to a planet that he discovered that should be habitable.
Right.
Like, if anybody knows the schedule of that ship, it's gonna be him.
Well, he also looked at it at the beginning of the movie on the list on the computer.
Well, right. But it was explained that he was staying behind in order to contact any ships that were there or that were coming back. But it just seems like maybe he was staying specifically so he could give that message to that ship.
Right.
And then didn't take advantage of being like, hey, by the way, I'm your dad. I'm sorry I wasn't there or some shit.
Yeah, I would have liked to have seen that too. I thought the spacewalk scene was very telling, like telegraphed that something bad was going to happen. Someone was going to die.
Oh yeah, for sure. And then they tried to fake you out a little bit, like, oh,
where everybody's fine. And then you see the little drop of blood.
Right. Okay. So here's the problem I have. When she sees blood like in her helmet or some shit, right? That shouldn't happen. If air is being sucked out of her spacesuit,
if there's a puncture,
right, then anything that's in that air should be moving towards the lower pressure.
The only thing that would make sense is if it punctured but then closed sealed it.
Right, but then her oxygen wouldn't be dropping.
Yeah.
There should if there was that much blood, which is another problem that I have with this scene. When they get back into the airlock, and she is they repressurize it, and she takes off her helmet, and all this like blood just starts floating around everywhere.
Yep.
Okay. First off, unless, well, first off, her spacesuit has a puncture in it, so there shouldn't be more pressure in the spacesuit than the newly pressurized chamber.
Right.
That doesn't make any sense.
Well, she would have died outside anyway from all of the oxygen being sucked out of her suit.
Sure, that too. But then she takes off her helmet and all this blood like comes like spewing out the neck of her spacesuit.
Yep.
The only way that would happen is if there was air in the spacesuit if the air in the spacesuit started moving out of the neck hole, but that's only going to happen if there's a pressure difference, a positive pressure difference in the spacesuit. And then
You're
once
thinking
it
too
comes,
much about it, man. You're just thinking way too much.
and some of it should be absorbed in the fabric of her spacesuit. I don't think there's just a giant puddle of blood like waiting to come out.
You
But
think would have been
also-
coming out where the puncture was.
Right. And then once it does come out, it just kind of floats there, somehow losing its momentum in space.
Yeah, I had a problem with that. I also had a problem with the noise. Like there's no sound in space,
Right.
but they put sound in space. Like they put like this weird underwater clanking noise. Like when you're underwater and you hear something like clank together.
Mm-hmm.
Or like move around, like that's basically what they did. And I don't know if they told like the Foley people to do that or if they just made the decision or what, but I feel like there should have been like the tension would have been higher if there was no sound or just the music with that they were playing or just them talking. But like the clanking kind of took me out of it.
Yeah. I didn't think about that.
I was like, just either choose to have the sound of them moving around outside, which is not going to happen, or don't have it. But don't have this weird in between where it's like muffled. Like they did it to where it's like what they're hearing in their spacesuit, which would have been nothing. Like they would not have heard the movement outside.
Yeah. The only exception to that I could possibly think of off the top of my head is the sort of like metal and suit conduction of lower frequencies that could happen.
Maybe, but I don't know. Maybe they asked an astronaut about actual spacewalks.
Maybe.
I doubt it.
I doubt it. It doesn't seem like it. But like I thought the memory holograms were really cool. The way that the furniture came out of the wall and matched the memories that they had saved or whatever.
Yeah.
I thought that was a really neat touch. I like the design of the ship itself with all of its solar panels. It had like the arboretum ring of like trees and shit.
Yeah, it looked a lot like. Have you ever watched the movie Sunshine?
No.
It's a Cillian Murphy movie. It's also got
Ooh.
a bunch of other people in it. I like it a lot, but it's also not like a happy movie. But the spaceship looks very, very similar. So I think that's just like a common design, I guess, with these ships. I liked the interior design. It reminded me a lot of if you watch a lot of older like 1950s movies. Like it seemed like it was sort of based on that but upgraded, like the ladders and everything like that.
Dude, the ladders are the one part that kind of bugged me.
Yeah, they're very 1950s spacecraft.
Well, yeah, but the ladder rungs themselves are just so thick.
Yeah,
I don't know what it is about it that it just seemed like it'd be hard to like climb up those.
They had to put those lights in it. That's why it's so thick. I guess we'll like talk about the very end of the movie, but just sending the two guys that go off into the planet, which we kind of already talked about, and then sending them back on a trajectory to Jupiter's moon again to live out their days with their child. Like, it's
right.
I'm not looking for like a happy ending, because it definitely was not a happy ending, and it kind of like felt like, because whenever the credits roll, it's just the two of them there like touching buttons on the control panel like everything's gonna be okay,
Mm-hmm.
Where I was like, if they were like real human beings, I'm pretty sure they would both be like in their heads like, oh God, like we're all alone. There's no one else. Like, hopefully one of them knows any sort of like, because I think their medical doctor left.
Yeah.
Like, I think it was the guy that didn't have like any reason to leave, but was still like, I'll leave too. I think that was their medical doctor. Like,
Yeah, I don't understand. I don't know how to
this
put
movie
this, to be honest.
ended unsatisfactory. Like, it was
Right. Like at the end of the day, we were kind of talking about this earlier. George Clooney's dead. Humanity
Yep.
is dead, or if they're not dead, they will be soon because
Yeah.
he described their underground shelters as temporary.
on in the stars.
But it doesn't, because either you're gonna have to like have at least 2 kids, or keep trying until you get kids that can biologically reproduce. At which point you have to convince your kids to biologically reproduce, or do it yourself, which is even worse.
Yeah, let's not super go there, but
Right. So point being that at the end of this movie, within probably 15 to 20 years, all of humanity is gone.
yeah,
And
I mean,
at
not
the
on Jupiter.
at the most, assume if they have no more kids, then you're just going to have this one child like outliving their parents and then being like, well, that's the end of me, I guess.
And then dying alone on a planet in like their 50s or 40s or whatever.
Well,
if they live that long.
At that point, it's their home, so okay, whatever, I guess. But that would literally be the last human left in the universe.
I feel like I would rather like just fly my ship out into empty space and just be like, we'll just die, like here in this ship. Like,
yeah, I mean, you might as well.
Figure it out.
I mean, the ship seems to be self-sustaining to a certain extent, and I would assume that if it's got, like we're talking about the again biodiversity that fuels its oxygen systems and shit,
right?
So that it can be self-sustaining through a long trip to Jupiter and back, that they could go indefinitely. So you might as well just fucking go. I mean,
see how far you get.
Yeah, there's no extra points for staying on that fucking moon or anything.
Yeah.
The only other thing I can think is maybe that at some point they run out of like solar power.
Yeah,
But
I guess
don't
they
know.
would get far enough from the sun that would happen.
Yeah.
But I mean, if they had, we'll not get into there because then we're just gonna get into stuff that doesn't matter for the movie. It was a somewhat disappointing ending. I guess it was satisfactory for his arc. His arc completed and it was done, and that's cool. And then every story finished except for the 2 guys that flew into the planet to die or whatever. That was the part that I was just like, I don't know if an astronaut who seems very militaristic, because he did, like, he was like captain and commander and all this other stuff, and I'm gonna do my duty and kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the movie, he's suddenly like, no, I made a promise to my family. I'm abandoning this mission. Goodbye. Like, I was like, that seemed uncharacteristic of what you had set up for him previously.
Right. I don't know. There were a lot of confusing decisions at the end.
Yeah.
One last thing I did want to note before we wrap up here. The pregnancy in the movie was not originally in the movie.
Ooh.
They had cast Felicity Jones, and then she called up George Clooney and was like, hey, I found out I'm pregnant. And he was like, oh, fuck. Like, he described it. He was like, oh, yeah, that's great. But, like, in his mind, he's going, oh, shit, what the fuck are we going to do? And then it was trying to figure that out. And they were thinking, like, he really wanted Felicity to do the part.
Yeah.
And was trying to figure out, maybe we bring in a body double for all of her, like, full body shot scenes or whatever. But eventually they decided to write the pregnancy into the movie. And I think it added to the movie having her be pregnant. It was
Yeah,
you know,
it didn't take
even
anything
though
away from it.
right, and even though it left that sort of weird thread at the end,
It would have
it
still
also
been there.
yeah, it would have still been there, right? And I don't know, it was neat seeing them kind of roll with that, you know, and incorporating into the movie. And I think it changed a little bit of like going back and rewatching the movie with that in mind. Some of the scenes between her and David, what's his name, Commander at Adewale, that I think their conversations had a little bit more meaning and depth because the pregnancy seems to indicate that their relationship is a little bit longer and deeper than it would have been otherwise.
I think the pregnancy also added, well, yeah, I mean, it sort of added like this time frame to the ship. So,
Yeah.
because it shows like her flashback or her dream being left on the planet, not pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden she's on the ship, like very pregnant. Shows like how long they've been drifting through space, which probably years from Jupiter, at least.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's unless you have anything else, that's the movie.
Nope, that is the movie. If you want to watch it after listening to this, you can catch it on Netflix.
I did have one other thing.
What's that?
Just a funny anecdote. It felt like every time they did a flashback, they showed him like with this beard but short.
Mm-hmm.
And then every time it's old George Clooney, he's got like the long Santa Claus beard.
Mm-hmm.
And I just kept thinking, like, did he start growing it when he was that age? And it finally got that long when he was older. Like he never trimmed it. It just the slowest growing beard of all time. Like,
oh man, yeah, my beard gets like that thick after like 3 months. It's awful.
Jeez, yeah, mine does not. It's very stringy. Ugh.
Like this that I got going on that our listeners can't see is like a month, and it's pretty thick.
Yeah, I wish I could grow thick. This is like, yeah. Well, we're not going to talk about beards, but yeah, it's on Netflix.
Yeah, so fire up your Netflix, watch the movie. I enjoyed it. Andrew didn't seem to enjoy it near as much, but
it was all right. I don't, yeah. Which that seems to be your review seems to be the reviewers' points, and my review seems to be the like viewers, like the regular people. 20.
Right,
I'd give it a 28%. Sounds like you'd give it a 50%.
Yeah, there you
60.
go. Apparently, I'm not regular people. Thanks.
Yeah, regular people. I meant not like movie critics.
Right. All right. So I guess that's it for this movie. So join us next time. We're gonna watch The Little Things, starring Denzel Washington, Rami Malek, and Jared Leto.
George Clooney Leto.
George Clooney Leto. I believe that one's on Netflix too, right?
Nope, that is HBO Max. Just came out. It's one of Warner Brothers' first. I guess it's their next big was gonna be in theaters movie after Wonder Woman.
Yeah. So if you want to watch it with us, watch it between now and the time the next one releases, and you can hear our thoughts about it.
Yeah.
But now that you're into this, thank you for listening.
Thank you.
If you want to send us some feedback, go rate and review us on iTunes. It helps us with visibility. It helps us, know what people are thinking. And yeah.
It's also the only way for us to get any sort of exposure on iTunes itself for algorithms and all that business.
Right. So give us 5 stars or give us 0 stars if you don't like us. But
do what makes you happy.
It's a vote of conscience, really. But anyway, we will be back in 2 weeks. And until then, remember, the narrative is a giant circle.
Like a cinnamon roll.